Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is match day, Thursday, the 7th of November, as Rangers prepare to take on Olympiacos in match day 4 of the Europa League. Joshua is out there in Greece for us, in Athens. How's it going, Joshua?
All good, Derek. Looking forward to the game. Being at the stadium last night, I think it's going to be a good atmosphere. I still think that given Rangers' form, there's not a huge amount. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but there's not maybe the normal anticipation of what there would be for European football. That'll obviously change if Rangers manage to get a result as they did in Malmo. So looking forward to it.
Have you seen any Rangers fans out there?
Yes, gradually ever populating Athens over the last few days. So I don't know what the allocation will be if it's. I believe the stadium holds just over 30,000 people. Mentioned last night, quite similar, I think, to the PSV stadium, just what it looks like from the outside, and the feel of it. The fact that it's kind of, I can't remember if PSV is a single tier, but it reminded me of that for whatever reason. I imagine that be a good chunk of them in the ground tonight as well. It's obviously an early kickoff back home, but we're a couple hours ahead over here in Greece. So what does that make? I think a 7:45 kickoff over here.
Yep, just a reminder there, folks. It's one of those early ones. Just on the supporters, Rangers were Olympiacos were late in allocating Rangers tickets for this game. I know my dad tried to get one. He just missed out on my jersey, but he was offered one on Monday, but it was just too late to get out there to Greece. King Charles Spaniel says it allocated 1,600. So I'm sure the Bears that will be out there will be doing their bit, as they always do. I'm sure they'll do the club proud as normal. Right, we'll look ahead to what we think Rangers, how they might line up tonight in the match. Now, the two teams have got pretty identical records in the competition so far. 2 wins, both boasting a victory over Malmo. Both have lost against Lyon. Rangers, of course, defeating FCSB, which Olympiacos play next, I believe. And Olympiacos have beat a team themselves. I'm not entirely sure who, but
Braga at home 3-0.
Good result for them.
Yeah, so pretty identical record. Olympiacos are 4th in their league. We've got a little. If people want to know a little bit more about them, you obviously have got the video on the YouTube channel, Derek, but also on the website. Got a few different written pieces looking at some top line numbers and kind of facts in relation to Olympiacos. Obviously, they have a manager, Mendili Bar, who's won 2 European trophies in a row, so no stranger to doing well in midweek competition. They currently sit 4th in their domestic league. I think it's 5 wins, 3 draws, and 2 defeats. They're the most successful club in Greece, but haven't won that many titles in the last couple of years. I guess the big story for them, no Greek team had won a European trophy prior to Olympiacos winning the Conference League here in Greece earlier this year. Actually, only one other Greek team, I believe, Panathinaikos. Someone can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. But
71.
There you go. I should have known.
Yeah.
You'd have known. I was going to say 72. Yeah, so I believe that was the only other Greek club to reach a European final until Olympiacos managed to win one earlier this year. So they're a club that have done well in Europe lately, probably pretty level to Rangers. That's what their coach was kind of stressing in his pre-match press conference. He doesn't think there's much between the teams. They'll try to play slightly differently. He kind of emphasised, as we discussed a little bit yesterday, that the way that Rangers play football, he called it vertical, effectively meaning that because they want to attack quickly and because they're probably better playing into space than when they've got the ball at the back, then that can make the game a little bit difficult for Olympiacos. They're favourites because they're at home, Derek, but as you say, pretty identical records, and 2 teams, although it might not feel like it with Rangers sometimes, 2 teams who have done well in Europe in the last few seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's get up the predicted lineup that you and Chris both agree on, Joshua. Interesting to hear from the manager when you quizzed him on Dujon Sterling last night, whether he's ready to play consistently. And he said he doesn't think he's ready to play 90 minutes just now. He does hope that he gets back to the Dujon Sterling that he had last season, but he has been struggling with niggling injuries. Reading between the lines from his answer last night, I would not be surprised if James Tavernier comes back in, but if we bring up your lineup, like so, there we go. This is how you and Chris feel that Rangers should be lining up this evening. So you both have plumped for Dujon Sterling at right back. Cashin Weirjo, of course, keeping his place that he ended the match on Sunday against Motherwell. There's a place for Mohamed Diamande with Tom Lawrence ruled out for between 4 to 6 weeks. And, of course, Barami, Czerny either side of Cyril Dessers up top. What's your thinking of behind this?
Yeah, well, we can maybe go position by position, and people can feed us back and tell us why we're wrong. But I don't think there'll be too many disagreements with that lineup that if we were picking the team, which obviously we do not do. Would like to see over here in Greece. Sterling, the question put to Clement was along the lines of, you'll remember, Derek, that when Sterling signed his new contract, Clement effectively challenged him to prove that he could play 10 games in a row to hold down one position. But there was some quote that was along those lines, effectively saying that, yes, he needs to play in one position in order to get the best performances, in order to, I guess, prioritise his development, because even at the start of this season, we saw him play right back in pre-season against Manchester United when James Tavernier wasn't involved, and there was more noise about his potential exit from Rangers than there ever had been in his 9 years previously. Since then, the first time I believe we've seen Dujon Sterling play right back was the weekend against Motherwell, and it's a right back who's never been afforded to play in his natural position. Logic would suggest that it would be time to give him a shot there. I know we've got the wrong number in there. He's not the number 2 at the moment as things stand. I just think that so the question put to Clement was, is he ready to play games in succession? And that's why he was saying, I think from his answer you could take that I don't know if he's ready to play 90 minutes consistently back to back to back. I think he has to start one of these 2 games at right back, probably. I certainly think going forward, as we've talked a lot over the course of this week, when you look ahead to that Old Firm final, I think it's pretty clear who Rangers should have in that position at right back, because of all the factors that we've discussed this week that we won't go over because people will get bored and switch off. I just look at the performance from the weekend. I look at the fact that I think it's a team that still needs more energy, and the Diomande and Danilo and Sterling, I think, all brought that from the bench at the weekend. It's a team that still doesn't have a lot of pace in the forward areas. I think Václav Czerny I think his performances could go up a level if he has a right back with a little bit more. It feels strange saying this because James Tavernier spent his whole career, and I think he probably will start tonight if you were to push me on that, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a really good performance in this competition, which he knows really well. I thought he was pretty good defensively, bar 1 or 2 moments away at Malmo. But across the board, if you look at the big picture, and I'll put it back to you to see what you think about the right back situation, although I know we've discussed it to death. I think Sterling's greater legs compared to Tavernier now gives you a little bit more variation on that side, probably allows Czerny to move inside the pitch more frequently, as you see with Bayrami and Shefty on the left-hand side, although maybe the balance of the team is slightly different. And also, again, just with that December in view, you want your strongest defensive right back in there. He's got to be given a run of games in that position at some point, and the belief is that it will happen. It's just going to be interesting to see if that comes now or maybe after the next international break.
Yep, it's whether he's, as Clement said, his body can deal with playing consistently, but he does need opportunities at right back. It was the reason he was brought to the club in the first place. Tav's legs have gone. I don't think there's no doubt about that. He's nowhere near the levels that he has been previously, and I am concerned. Olympiacos have got a decent left winger. On that left-hand side, they're pretty strong. They will be exposing Rangers should Tavernier play there, which is a real worry for me. If Dujon Sterling's in that position, my mind is somewhat eased because physically and he can deal with a lot coming down his way. And listen, we need to see more of him at right back before we can make a proper assessment on it. But of the 2 games, Hearts is a bigger game. So, like you, wouldn't be surprised to see Tavernier start tonight. However, Sterling has to play Sunday, if that is the
Yeah,
case.
but then do you think it's more likely that Tavernier plays in the league and Sterling in a game where Rangers do have more of the ball? I don't know, in Sterling in European competition. Clement has been so loyal to Tavernier, and he's been loyal to Dessers even though he's had no real other options in there. But he also has made big decisions about other players at points. And it felt like, Connor Goldson being one. Connor Goldson lost his place before he left Rangers. It was a semi-final against Hearts. He was on the bench for one of the first times in his Rangers career when he wasn't injured or recovering from an injury. And that was significant. And from there, it became pretty obvious he was going to leave the club in the summer. Clement taking Tavernier and Dessers off, again, as we've discussed before in this week, the fact that Tavernier is your right back very, very rarely in recent years has Tavernier come off the pitch when Rangers have been chasing a goal, if at all. So that did feel slightly significant. Listen, Dujon Sterling, I'm sure, will make a mistake here or there at right back, and it might take him a little bit of time to get up to speed in that position. He merits a run of games again if Clement thinks he's able to. But what I also would say is that I don't think changing from position to position, especially if you're thinking of a player's sell-on value, especially if you're looking at what position do they have the highest ceiling in, you've got to remember last season Sterling played literally everywhere from the left wing, Derek to the right wing, to centre back, to central midfield, to left back. The only two positions he did not play on that chart is up top and in goals. At some point, I think that starts to harm. That's fine if you've got a player who can do that and who's maybe 28, 29 and you're not looking to sell on down the line. But if there's a player with Sterling like Sterling, who's been so highly rated at points in his career, especially as a young player, let's see how he can do in his favoured position. And will he make, as mentioned, will he make a few mistakes? Will he have a few better games? Probably. As he got the attack and output that Tavernier has, it remains to be seen, although the right back position is slightly different. And because that right back position is slightly different, and with less of a reliance on overlapping and crossing and more playing inside the pitch, especially if that right-sided number 8, Connor Barron, is running beyond, as we saw for the first goal at the weekend, then maybe that will just suit his capabilities and his profile as a right back a little bit more.
Yeah, I think overall the fan base, I've not seen many people say they'd start with James Tavernier tonight. I think you and Chris obviously addressed it on the website the other day there. He shouldn't be in just because of who he is and previous accomplishments and reputation. It has to be on form, and Dujon Sterling for me deserves a crack at the whip, or even Mauricio Cashin-Wirjo you've got in that team at centre half, replacing Robin Proper. Doesn't seem to be fancied at this moment in time. I think that was a big move by the manager to bring on Nana instead of Robin Proper at the weekend. Had a bit of a howler. What game was it? Was it the... Yeah, it had a bit of a howler. I think I'd be much inclined to see... I think in terms of that centre-back position, John Suter, I think, nailed on. But on that left-hand side, Cashin-Wirjo, Balogun, and then Proper, who's probably third choice at this moment in time, Joshua.
Yeah, again, away at Malmo, I thought generally did well. And he's had 2 bad games, Derek. He's also someone who's had a very good career in the Eredivisie and captained his team to finish 3rd last season. He's not, to throw a cliche at you, become a bad player overnight. But equally, I think you saw in that St Mirren game, and it was obvious as well in a couple of games before that, Kilmarnock away up against Kyle Vassell, and then I believe it was St Johnstone before the international break, where he kind of struggled to deal with their pace up top, and John Suter had to do a lot of covering behind him. So if you were to look at Proper as a defender, if you were to scout Proper as a defender, I don't think you'd say his best attributes is his physical attributes when isolated, when he's one-on-one. Someone who can read the game well. I think he's good on the ball. A lot has been said about what he brings to the dressing room, and if you speak to people who've worked with him throughout his career, that is something, his leadership off the pitch, which people might say that type of thing is overrated. When you look at how much change went on in the squad this summer, that was again an important attribute that Rangers wanted to recruit in certain profiles. Václav Černý is another pretty experienced player who's played at high level at previous points in his career. But again, as you said with Tavernier, I've some sympathy for James Tavernier as well, because he carries Rangers a lot at different points. He's probably put his body through too many games at different points because there's not been enough cover. He's provided big moments when no one else has done, when everyone else has looked to him to do it. But as to repeat a point, you probably take him out of the firing line a little bit at the moment, and you start to, especially because there's still this question of how many games can Sterling play. There's no reason, I don't think, Derek, that you can't rotate that right back position. Casemiro's most likely minutes to me seem like they're now going to come at centre back because, again, that's where Rangers need him. And it doesn't make sense to put him in as a right back all season and then stunt Sterling's development and have him playing across the pitch. Again, Nico Raskin's emergence back in the midfield decreases your need to maybe play Dujon Sterling in there, although Tom Lawrence's latest injury, again, it means that there's a lack of option in the centre of the pitch. But I think Casemiro and Suter, the two that Rangers ended with at the weekend, Casemiro, whenever he's come in to a game, has looked pretty unflustered, a product of the Ajax Academy, and I think you can see that when he comes into a game and when he's on the ball. Rangers obviously have an option to try and keep him at Ibrox next summer, still only 22 years old. I don't know about you, but I just think as the squad is made up at the moment, and because of those circumstances I've just mentioned, feels like centre-half is the most likely area where he's going to get consistent minutes, because he's not come to sit on the bench all season, Derek. He's come to play games. And
we've heard that from him,
and I think centre-back is at the moment, unless there was to be an injury in another position, especially because you've got Redvan coming back at left-back at some point, I think centre-back is where those minutes are going to come.
Yeah, just on proper, I mean, it's all right. He was a decent enough defender in the Eredivisie. That's not quite Scottish football. Players have came from the Eredivisie before and struggled with the physicality and the nature that Scottish football brings up. So for me, I don't see how he is an upgrade on Ben Davies, to be honest with you. And the jury very much out on Robin Proper for me. That being said, I know Johnny said on Monday that a European match might be decent, where you just chuck him in there, he's got more time on the ball, time to spray passes and things like that. So perhaps we may see him back in that starting 11. It will be interesting to see when the teams drop round about 4:45 this evening. Jeffy starts, Ritvan travelled, Joshua, but he's not fit enough to feature.
Yeah, Jeffy starts, and as we discussed yesterday, I would probably be my first choice left back at the moment. I know he made a bad error at the weekend. Not made many of them for a young left back.
It's his fault, though, I would say.
Yeah. I'd expect him to play there. I think, again, it's a front three that lacks a bit of pace, Derek, but Rangers will have space to play into. And if you look at where their goals have come from in recent weeks, their most threatening attacks, it's normally been between Bayrami and Cherney. If you think of the games at home, St Mirren, was it St Mirren where Cherney scored, or St Johnstone, sorry, against Bucharest at home, the weekend against Motherwell at Hampden. It's been those kind of cross-field passes, Aberdeen away as well, from Bayrami and Cherney trying to attack vertically, as Clement would call it. Chefty left back for me. Yeah.
Just a point, I just wanted to flag this up just on Tavernier. Denzel says, Tav shouldn't start any games. It's sad, very unfortunate, but true. The quality just isn't there anymore. Happens to every player. Trust me, age is a terrible thing. So that is what Denzel had to say on the Tavernier situation. Right, midfield then. Barron and Raskin have been good lately. Surely certain to start tonight. Mandy in there alongside them. Of course, he came on for Tom Lawrence when he hobbled off on Sunday, and yet to really set the heather alight this season. Diamandi, I've seen some suggesting that perhaps the manager might call upon Kieran Dowell, but I think Diamandi is a shoe-in to start in place of Lawrence tonight, Joshua.
Yeah, and I know it's 4-3-3 there. People say Rangers play a 4-2-3-1, but this season for me, more often than not, especially because you've got Bayrami and Cherney, who are both players who want to cut inside, as opposed to wingers who want to stay wide and hit the byline. You've seen Rangers play with more of one number 6 and two number 8s. That was definitely the case at the weekend. If you think of where Diomande was playing very close to Chefty and Bayrami on the left-hand side, Barron was making those runs on the right-hand side, the kind of underlap and run that we saw as he created Cyril Desser's first goal. So the configuration of that midfield has changed a little bit. Don't get me wrong, at times you still see Diomande running beyond and doing a lot of selfless work for the team that I don't think always brings out the best in him. I agree that this season hasn't. He's probably not reached the heights since that first month or two, has he? I still look at the Benfica performance away from home and think that was one of his best. Whether it be I don't know whether it be the fact that if you look at those midfield three, Clement's football is still pretty direct, even if it's less direct than last season, and that's something I always come back to with Diomande. Is he getting enough of the ball? Is he playing close enough to other players, or is he doing a lot of the selfless work and running beyond and trying to get close to the striker in moments? But if you were to push me on the midfield three tonight, that's what I think it would be.
Yeah, need a big performance from all three tonight if they're going to win that midfield battle. I touched on in a previous show yesterday. They do have a 17-year-old wonder kid who's been dubbed the Greek Iniesta, and he's just pulled up to the senior setup for Greece for the first time as well. So refreshing to not only see Mendilibar, the Olympiacos coach, giving youth a chance, but also the national team chucking him in as well. I know Steve Clark came out earlier in the week when he was quizzed on Lennon Miller, saying just leave him to play for Motherwell, but he's someone that's a bit reticent to play young lads, not just Steve Clark, but Scottish managers down the years. So he's someone Rangers are going to be mindful of tonight, Joshua. They need to keep him quiet and not allow him to pull the strings.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with you, because obviously in Scottish football, we think of a young player as young until they're
like 20 odds.
Yeah, 23 or 24. And much like the Malmo game, although I think that Olympiacos are a better team, and I think the home atmosphere will be difficult, the way that Rangers start will probably have a big bearing on the game. On that day, they were aggressive, scored early. Would still expect them to try and be pretty aggressive tonight from the off, just because that's a pattern of what we've seen from Clement's teams in Europe so far, regardless of who they're playing. They are, to his credit, they rarely sit in. And often do go after teams. And away from home in Europe, he's got a pretty good record off the top of my head. Obviously, Real Betis away, Benfica away, got the draw. A late leveller away in Lublin to get that draw against Dynamo Kyiv, and then Malmo as well. So unless I'm missing a game, I don't think he's lost with Rangers away from home. It's been the defeats against Benfica and Lyon at home that have been the defeats in European competition. And Kyiv, can't forget Kyiv.
Yeah, very good point indeed. There's a point here from Big Phil. Good to know that he tunes in on the morning. It says, a point from Olympiacos or Nice sets us up nicely for Union Saint-Gilloise in the last match. Yeah, absolutely. Discounting, of course, the visit of Tottenham and the trip down to Old Trafford. But these two matches, if they can take something from them, Joshua, you'd like to think Rangers could get the better of our old foes, the Belgian club, in that game at the Ducks.
Yeah. It was obviously what I always remember about that game, which preceded the PSV 3-2 win, didn't it?
That was because they were honking in Belgium.
I was about to say it was John McLaughlin. I remember John McLaughlin made a one-on-one save to stop it from going 3-0, which I think would have been curtains, and that the return leg when Rangers won 3-1. They didn't start fast. They had a habit at that era in European competition of always scoring early. And from my memory, I can't remember who scored the first goal, but it was like a looping Barisic cross. It might well have been Tavernier, probably was, or maybe it was a penalty. And then obviously Cholak and Tillman scored in the second half to send Rangers through against PSV. But it was a bit of needle between the respective clubs at that time. I believe there was some celebrations from my memory on the pitch from USG officials that rubbed people up the wrong way, and was brought up after Rangers won the return leg. But they've obviously had a pretty successful time since that game, haven't they? When the same can't be said for Rangers.
Yeah, certainly went on. Yeah, James Tavernier netted the first from the spot. Cholak and Tillman netted the other goals in that Rangers comeback win. Those were the days. Certainly in Europe, that's for sure. Right, up front, of course, got Czerny. He's banging form. Let's hope he can find the back of the net tonight. Ever since that glaring miss against Lyon. He's been outstanding for me. Bayrami as well scored the decisive goal at the weekend. Again, would like to see him playing centrally, but I think given the injury situation, it's more likely he'll be out there on the left. Cyril Dessers is what he is. We need a better type performance tonight, and not what we've seen of late from him. I've seen many people mentioning other names. Chaparuni says, I wish we'd try something different up top, even playing Lovelace for pace. I don't think I would be opposed to that. I don't think it's going to happen right enough, but Dessers will lead the line. Joshua has to link up the play. His touch has to be spot on. He has to do the basics right tonight.
Yes. The Malmo away, I thought, was one of his better games with his back to goal, and it was probably, again, because Malmo were pretty aggressive and Rangers had space to play into, and Dessers wasn't having to kind of be proactive and create space himself. I agree with you. He'll go through stages this season where he'll score goals. I thought the difference, to again reiterate a point we've made throughout the course of this week, I feel we've repeated ourselves more this week than probably at any point over the last 3 years, Derek. But talking points are low. Danilo just linking the play gives you, not only does it give you more options, but you saw how he linked up with Cherney for a couple of moments, and it gives players more options as well, because there's moments in the first half, especially when James Tavernier had the ball right back. He knows that Dessers doesn't want it into feet. It's always got to be about turning the defence and then trying to play for second balls. And I think it just becomes too direct and attritional. But that link up between Cherney and Danilo, I know Danilo can't play tonight, is something to watch out for, because at FC20 they had a really good dynamic. It was a few years ago now. And on Cherney, speaking to the man who managed Cherney and Danilo at FC20 during that time, I remember he spoke to me in the summer, and it was in a piece that we did on the website, and he said the thing with Cherney is he can be quite an emotional player, and he wears that. His body language sometimes can count against him when things aren't going well. He needs to know that people are on his side, that he's got a manager who believes in him, that he's got a crowd who will back him. And it is quite a turnaround, and it's not easy to do what he's done if you think of not only that Lyon game, Derek, but the Hibs game, where he had some choice words for the reaction of the home crowd when he came off, and also a kind of underwhelming month before that. He's the name that was name-checked by the Olympiacos camp yesterday when they were asked what player stood out, what player they thought would be most dangerous from the Rangers side, and definitely 5 goals in 5 games since that Lyon miss. Obviously, a big hand in creating both of the goals at the weekend. The last time Rangers played away from home in Europe, he went through 1-on-1 against Malmo and put it wide. He looked like a player that was bereft of confidence. I'd expect if he gets a similar chance tonight, he'd be a little bit more incisive with it.
Yeah, let's hope so. I see it. I've got to say, I think both teams may just cancel each other out tonight, which I would take quite happily. I've predicted a 1-1 draw tonight. Joshua, how do you see it going?
Yeah, I think Rangers will do well to come away with something because of the home atmosphere, because they aren't in a brilliant run of form. But that said, how many times have we mentioned that going into a European game over the past couple of years? It does just seem to normally provoke a little bit of a different performance from them. So I think they take a draw. I think they do well to take a draw and be sitting on what then it'll be 7 points after 4 games. Obviously, both teams go into this on the same number of points after the same number of games as well. So, I'll say 1-1 if I'm being optimistic, a 1-0 defeat if I'm being pessimistic, just because I think the Olympiacos, again, like we've said with other teams that Rangers have faced in Europe, Lyon, the obvious one, who had a lot of quality, but going away to these types of grounds is not easy. It's a team who won a European competition last season, and it's a team who I think have ambitions of going a little bit further in this competition this season as well. So, given Rangers' form, I'll pessimistically say that they might just fail to get something tonight. But you wouldn't count against them in this competition.
No, you sure wouldn't. Kick-off 5:45 for those that are still asking. So it's not your usual 8 p.m. tonight, folks. It's 7:45 local time over there in Greece. We'll all have all the usual build-up from the game. So we'll be live around about 4:30 as we react to tonight's Rangers team. We hope you can join us for that. We'll also have post-match reaction on the whistle. Myself and Chris will be on. Josh will join us for a short while before heading down to get the thoughts of the manager after the game. Let's hope he's a very happy Belgian after tonight. Just a reminder as well, folks, if you are tuning in to the shows and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you won't miss a video when we go live. Right, big thanks to Joshua and to you all for integrating and taking part.
Integrating,
yeah, I don't know what I was saying there.
New one.
Yeah, thanks for your support as ever, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.